All right, everyone, it's time for another live stream here, another live chat with Rin Michaelis, actually. And how are you doing today?
I'm good. How about you?
Pretty well myself. And as always, links are in the description of this video to Rin's Twitter page, #1, and also her YouTube channel. I believe you have about 500 subscribers at the moment. Try to get it up to 1,000. That'd be great if we can.
Yeah, that'd be really nice.
Yeah. Now, for people in my audience who may not know actually anything about you, my first question would be just this. How would you sum up sort of your work, not just on YouTube, but online in general, YouTube and Twitter, any other presences you have, of course, sort of your beliefs in an eggshell?
I'm a civic nationalist. I'm a constitutionalist. I'm a capitalist, and I believe in free speech.
So absolute free speech or conditional free speech?
Well, I mean, there's the heckler's veto, and so I'm against the heckler veto. I'm against libel. I'm against, slanderism. But for the most part, I am for free speech.
So according to like Right Wing Watch, that means that you're against free speech because they should have the right to slander other people. Yeah. I was wondering first, another thing I wanted to ask actually is your thoughts on alt tech, actually, not just any single platform, although you can get into that Minds and Gab, BitChute, PewTube, which I'm not even 100% sure is still active as a site now, but all of these different fronts. What are your thoughts on alt tech, actually, or your experiences with it if you've used any of these sites?
Well, at first I thought that they weren't really going to go anywhere. However, with YouTube and censorship and Twitter and censorship, I could see it's growing popular unless YouTube would, lay off the censorship. And when it comes to alt tech, I do like BitChute.
So BitChute would be the site that you've actually used most?
Well, all of my videos automatically goes to BitChute because my BitChute and my YouTube are linked together.
Yeah, honestly, just speaking off the cuff here, that's one of the best features that any site has designed. I think PewTube did the reverse, though, that if you would upload to PewTube, it could automatically collate it to your YouTube channel if you gave them the credentials to do so. And I'm not sure if that may or may not have had something to do with them, at least temporarily, they're having problems, actually, if I remember correctly. And also, with regards to YouTube censorship, have you seen the story in the last few days with regards to its gun content rules now?
I haven't heard about that one yet.
YouTube is now banning people from linking to any site that sells guns or gun accessories. And it's now banning people from basically doing how-to, like tutorial-style videos on actual firearms. Believe it or not, I know if you haven't heard it, it probably sounds dystopian. I couldn't believe it when I first saw the story.
Oh, I could believe it. And it's really stupid, but it's also why I could see BitChute's getting popular, because if you can't talk about what you want on YouTube, you're just going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing that could possibly happen. The problem is, and I wonder about your thoughts of this, like as a creator, as someone who's, gained a large audience, trying to uproot everything and move it to another site, even if that site is well run, it has good ideas, like BitChute is torrent based, very interesting concept. You've got Steemit, which ties into the blockchain. It's got crypto built into it. It's got its own cryptocurrency. Even if they have interesting ideas, it's difficult to actually uproot your presence regardless of how large it is. I think as it gets larger, probably more difficult, and actually move it to a new site. And I was wondering, like in your thoughts, if YouTube were to collapse tomorrow, would it be a detriment to you? Would you be like, oh, well, son of a bitch, now I have to upload everything to a different site?
Well, fortunately, with BitChute, all of my videos automatically goes over there, except my older stuff. But I don't, I have the audience size there. Like on BitChute, I only have 8 subscribers. On YouTube, I have 527 subscribers. So with BitChute, I would have to still, start all over again until like a big name like PewDiePie or Philip DeFranco were to go over there.
Because I can remember, I don't know if you ever used VidMe.
Oh, yes, I have used VidMe. and I got up to 33 subscribers.
Yeah, I can remember because I was in the top 10 there. I remember Cullen, I think, for a while was #1. Dave Cullen, actually, Computing Forever. And that was sort of kind of a little bit of a free speech site, but it was more just a monetization related alternative to YouTube. They're like, hey, you can monetize stuff here. You can't anymore on YouTube. As far as free speech itself, it was never in mind because I think it was a Reddit offshoot site, actually. It got invested in heavily. But I can remember at the time, it was interesting that the mix of people who had risen to the top on that platform was totally different, actually, than the group of people on YouTube. Like, it didn't require a PewDiePie, so to speak. It was really alt media for the most part. I think you'd be part of that too, because you cover mainly politics.
Yeah, I do. I mostly talk a lot about politics and censorship.
Yeah, and so alt tech would definitely fit in with that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your political views, again, as a civic nationalist, for anyone who doesn't understand, because that term is vague sometimes. Some people think it means that you're a nationalist light. Some people think it means you're just globalist light, honestly. What does civic nationalism actually mean to you?
Well, for me, I'm against, mass immigration. I, don't support, like open borders. I believe it's important to protect the borders. I am concerned about overpopulation. And I am also concerned about the Calhoun's experiments, happening, but to humans.
So the rat paradise experiments, yeah.
Yeah, the rice paradise where it led to extinction. And it's kind of like you can see this sort of like with Japan, where it's overcrowded and people don't want to mate with each other. They just like men are kind of like, I just want to do my own thing. Like I think it's like 47% of people just don't want to, have sex or anything like that.
Yeah. Or in Japan, it's like 99% actually. For anyone who doesn't know the reference to which we're actually referring, the rat paradise, the Calhoun experiment was to create a utopia in which mice would be given limitless amounts of food to see what would happen over time. They became so overpopulated, the males became almost feminine. They became sort of detached and only wanted to groom themselves. The females became actually very aggressive and rapacious. And then eventually, because nobody was mating, their population collapsed to zero. And it roughly mimics what's happening today in overdeveloped countries. We've actually got a chat here. I don't take super chats. I'm telling this to you and also anyone who's watching. I don't do super chats. I don't have AdSense or any of that nonsense. I don't care if other people do, but I'm not really interested. And I think you have to pass a certain threshold on YouTube to even have it, like with regards to what you're saying in your streams. No, but there's a question here. Ask her if hate speech should be censored and by what metric hate is measured. Also speed up chat, which I actually cannot do.
I think hate speech is free speech, so it's kind of like I do think that like with the Count Dankula thing, I thought it was totally stupid. It was clearly just a joke, but I don't really get offended that easily. Like the N-word doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah. I thought, yes. Dankula's case was definitely interesting. We've got to cover that, actually. We should talk about that because it's still, it's still breaking news almost. People are still talking about the Free Dankula hashtag. Of course, the Scottish individual who's now, I believe, going to be sentenced in April. Although maybe he's already in a holding cell. I don't know how their bail system works in the rainy side of the pond over there on their island over there. But he's going to be in prison for some degree of time and get fined probably, I think, too, now for hate speech, for teaching his pug how to do a Nazi salute when certain words were actually mentioned. I think here's something I definitely wanted to ask. Do you find it odd when usually white, liberal individuals, self-proclaimed progressives, people on the left, when they claim that that sort of thing is inflaming to those who are not part of that sort of white core of liberaldom? Do you find it odd at all when they try to speak for other groups of people?
Yeah, to be honest, it really pisses me off and annoys me. Like when people are speaking on my behalf It's kind of a lot like I could speak for myself. It's like a parent-child relationship that they seem to have with minorities, where they want to speak on behalf of minorities as if we're small children that can't speak for ourselves. And it's kind of like they paint this picture that we're hypersensitive, like digital blackface. I don't know any black person that actually cares about digital blackface, but it's really coming from the regressive left.
So you think that they might be projecting their own sensitivities?
I think that they have like a white savior complex, and it's kind of like they're the mother, and the black people are like their little children, and I just view it like white savior,
Yeah.
more than they're offended.
Somebody asked me regarding a story with Varg Vikernes to ask me that. I'm not actually sure exactly what they're referring to. What are your thoughts on Varg? What are your thoughts on ethno-nationalists, I should ask? Like, not just Varg, because he's more on the pagan, traditionalist, survivalist, kind of anarcho side, but also like a Spencer or somebody like that. What do you think of that? Do you think they should have free speech, or are you a bunch of Nazi or something?
Well, I do believe that they should have free speech, as long as they're not, actually lynching black people or, trying to do anything. I don't mind if they merely express their thoughts. And not only that, but it could be healthy to just let it out, And not only that, but you can't change minds with censorship. Censorship isn't going to change anybody's mind. And here's a good example. Think about all of the atheists that were in the closets, where they, had a Christian family and they had to hide that they're atheists, and they just never told anybody. They would go to work, pretending to be Christian. They would wear the cross. They would cite verses of the Bible. It just, makes everything go underground. And I don't really see how that's going to help anybody. Like, even if you're to the left, I don't see how that helps the people that they claim to want to help.
And that would extend to certain other beliefs too. The concept that people have remained in the closet, really, and that suppression didn't work. What I see is, I wonder if you'd agree with this. I see actually a similarity between sort of the gay rights movement of maybe the late 90s into the 2000s. How people, they would say, well, no, I'm not gay. I'm totally straight. And they're actually gay, but they don't want to get into it. They don't want to be harassed or abused or whatever. I think there's a similarity between that kind of behavior and what the neoliberal establishment is trying to do, especially on the internet, to people who are part of the new right, libertarians on maybe more the ANCAP side generally. Minarchists are a little bit more accepted, I suppose, from time to time. We're still Nazi enablers, supposedly, but, a little bit less so. Or people certainly in the alt-right. I was wondering, would you say that that's a fair assessment, that there's a similarity sort of between the level of suppression or the attempt and the failure thereof?
I prefer to compare it to being an atheist, because being a gay is not a choice. But, when you're an atheist, atheism is still a choice. You could always convert to Christianity. Like, if you're in the alt-rights, you could always convert. However, like with atheism, they still had to hide who they really are. They still had to pretend to be Christians to their parents. They still had to, pretend to be a Christian at school because their teacher may give them a hard time. They still had to pretend to be a Christian at work, and in the end, it also causes a bit of paranoia. Like, it makes people think that everybody's a Nazi because people are, hiding it. People are hiding their true views. So people are wondering, like, are you a closeted Nazi? In the end, it would be better if people could just say what they really think and express how they really feel, and we could just move forward from there. But when you just censor people, it just causes stagnation, or for us to go backwards in society instead of forward in society.
So you would say that, in your opinion, the progressives are actually regressive. They're not progressing at all. They're just trying to take us back to maybe a dark time in human history where there was no free speech, or there was less free expression, more moralism, maybe.
Yeah, because before I would compare it to the satanic panic era before.
Yeah.
But now it seems like it just seems like they just really, I do think that they mean well, but they just go overboard and they're not helping the way that they think that they're helping, because they make minorities seem hypersensitive, overly fragile. Like digital blackface would just offend me and I'm just going to faint. Or, the whole it's okay to be white. It's like, oh no, I'm gonna faint. Or like you, I'm so scared of you. I'm really afraid right now. Just talking to you, I feel scared and petrified. You scare me, and you should feel ashamed of yourself. I hope you know that. And by the way, sis, you need to give me reparations. I hope you know that.
There was actually a case, and I kid you not on this, here in Vermont, up in the Burlington area on several campuses. UVM, I know, is one of them. This is why I actually knew of the story, because I was searching for any recent news for it. Not even a week ago. This will be new to my subs in many cases too. Actually, not even a week ago, there were some people had left stickers saying like it's okay to be white and some other stuff around the campus, and the FBI is investigating it. Like the FBI branch here is looking into whether these individuals were filled with hate when they did this. And the write-up on it was even funnier. It was like surreal. They're like, oh, it's not a crime. It's not like, these people are wanted or we're trying to arrest anyone. We're just trying to make sure, we're just trying to see whether these are like, individuals who have been made into fanatics or something. I was thinking to myself, it's rather odd that they would have a warrant at all to try to figure out who is posting this stuff, or they would even care, simply because of a sticker that says something so innocuous. So you're saying that such statements to you, as an individual who is not white, it does not offend you. So it's acceptable if it doesn't offend other people in your estimation.
To me, it just makes the FBI investigated. It's okay to be.
It is currently, yeah.
Oh my.
These stickers that were left on several. I think Linden was the other campus, if I remember correctly. They're actually placed there.
Well, to me, even if a person was a progressive, to me, they would actually be making things worse for Black people instead of better, because there is right now a clear double standard between how Black people are treated and how white people are treated. And there are books and experiments done on it. Like there is the blue-eyed, brown-eyed experiments, and then there was the book Predictably Irrational, where humans are programmed to seek fairness. So it's kind of like by treating Black people and white people like they aren't equal, by just getting upset over it's okay to be white, I would think that more people would join the alt-rights, not less.
That's what I believe, but it's odd. Here's the funny thing. I know that the alt-right condemns the use of like Dems are the real racist, or sort of like the left is racist, because the neocons have used that line and they've failed over and over again. But I think that it actually kind of is true, because there's actually a term. I won't say it here on YouTube on a live stream because, I don't want any trouble. So, CEO of YouTube, please go. No, but there's a term that relates to anyone who's not white, who doesn't want to condemn white people in general. It's the name of a type of popular cookie that Trump told Chris Christie he's not allowed to eat, actually. And I was wondering, do you think that people on the left typically are actually more racialist, maybe, or in general, than people on the right?
Again, I just think that they have this white savior complex when it comes to people who are brown and Black, where they just view brown and Black people as needing their protection, and needing them like as a type of parental figure.
Do you see it also possible as some of these individuals see you as pawns, essentially? Literally just voting stock. Like, hey, you should feel bad. These people are pressing you. Vote for us. We'll make it better. And then they just sort of forget about it, like maybe a Hillary Clinton with the hot sauce in her pocketbook.
Well, there are the people who are like Hillary Clinton, but there are people who, when you talk to them, or when I talk to them, I could see that they genuinely mean well.
So they're just trying, but they're misled. They're deluded.
Yes.
They're delusional a little bit.
Yes.
They fall somewhere on a certain spectrum. Do you think Hillary Clinton's racist?
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm not surprised you say. It's actually funny, if you have progressives aboard, or you talk to people on the left, they seem incapable, I think, at some level of understanding why other people would actually think that. But I think that even some people on the left in secret, I think that they know that she actually is sort of like a Southern plantation lady, and she calls like her maid the help and does all of these other weird things. And she changes her accent, actually. I wonder, have you seen this? How Hillary Clinton will actually change her accent depending on who she's talking to. Obama did, actually. I don't know if anyone else noticed this. Did you ever notice that Obama tended to do that?
No, not for either one, actually.
Yeah, like when he was talking to a Southern audience, or an audience that was like black or mostly black, he would just sort of do that twangy thing that he does, like the salesman sort of accent. And then in a crowd of college liberals, he'd be very you'd say Queen's English or whatever it's called. It was actually kind of funny, and I've noticed Hillary Clinton seems to do the same.
I haven't noticed with either one of them.
Yeah, I've seen politicians do it before. I think Bush, well, no, Bush was just dumb, so you can't say anything about him. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the GOP, too? Because just the fact that you're a civic nationalist doesn't necessarily mean that you side with Republicans.
Yeah, I voted for Trump the last election, but should be told I didn't like either Trump or Hillary. I liked Ron Paul, but Ron Paul dropped out. But I actually wanted Ron Paul to be the president.
Do you mean Rand this time around, or Ron the last time?
Rand, the one from this time.
Yeah, and before that, probably you liked Ron Paul, or.
Well, I was very apolitical until recently.
Yeah,
like
I think that's a common story. That seems to be common with a lot of people. They're like, I don't give a fuck about politics, and then the last few years, it's so partisan that they're like they can't avoid it.
Yeah, it's like I've only became political around late 2015. But before 2015, I was very apolitical. I ignored politics. I never watched the news. And now politics is something that you can't avoid because you just can't avoid it now.
I'm wondering if you've noticed the steady trickling of politics into every aspect of culture as it regards the corporate media, because of course in the last year we've seen the football protests, the take a knee during the anthem stuff, or we're going to sit it out. I think it involved pizza chains, if I remember correctly, and I think, wasn't it Pizza Hut is now the beneficiary because they got that multi-million-dollar contract. I think it was Little Caesars or Domino's or one of these other companies got kicked off because Trump didn't like them anymore. Have you noticed that it seems like politics is now literally unescapable? Like you can't play a video game without it being construed as political, potentially. You can't watch football without it being political. You can't watch the local news without Trump being brought up at this point. It seems to be all pervasive at this point.
Yes, it is very ubiquitous, so I just stopped watching TV. I mean, I did watch Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch, and I mean I did see I did see Wonder Woman with a friend, and I did see the Black Panther with my mom. But other than that, I pretty much stay away from watching TV. I don't really care about watching movies all that much. And I mean, video games, when they add intersectional feminism, they're not being coy. It is very obvious, and it's kind of like people don't get. What the left don't really get is that we care about the adventure. We don't really care too much about the storyline. Like I never viewed it, like when I was playing Super Mario, I never viewed it as I was rescuing a woman. I never saw it that way. I like the adventures. I like going to, the Christmas area, and I like going to the Halloween area. I just like visiting all of the different worlds. I never cared about rescuing the princess. Or even when I was rescuing my sister in Banjo-Kazooie, I never ever saw it as rescuing my sister. I saw it as visiting all of these cool, wonderful, interesting worlds. Most people don't even read the storyline.
Yeah. Video games are actually really interesting. It's like when you think back even to the worst, well, not worst, but most violent, worst in being violent style video games, like a Vice City, you know, San Andreas or something. It was funny because as a kid, you know, as a child of the 2000s, basically technically the 90s, and I know you were as well, like playing those games, like you're not racially profiling people, you're just running them all over at some point because you need their money for, you know, some adventure that you're doing within the game. But now people have begun, not only on one hand, authoritarians just blaming video games for violence, tying into the gun argument, number one. Number two, increasingly, it's impossible to actually have that kind of game. It's impossible to actually have action within a game because they spend so much time actually trying to tell some sort of story for a political or a social purpose. Like, I can't remember the name of it. There was one game a year and a half ago. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. They got some sort of awards, and like it was literally like the billed as the first feminist game or something, like the first progressive video game, and it was a snooze fest. It's like there's no action in it. It didn't even have, I think, any puzzles.
Yeah, I mean, who would want to play a game like that? You know, nobody really wants to play a game like that. So for me, it's kind of like when I want entertainment, I watch anime.
Yeah, or violent movies. It doesn't matter what the race or political affiliation of the killer or the victim is. Usually there's something screwed up about the killer in some other manner.
Well, I don't too much like modern day movies. I think old movies are a lot better, like Young Frankenstein or
Yeah.
Blazing Saddles. We would never have another Blazing Saddles. I don't think so. And it's like Blazing Saddles would be viewed as, you know, racist when they were making fun of the races. That was the point. It's to poke fun of the people who are in the KKK. But now
Yeah.
it would be viewed as too racist now.
And Young Frankenstein would be sexist, and A History of the World Part 1 would be both, actually. And those are like three of the greatest comic, or the producers, you think they were making fun, sort of the Hitler skating around thing. I don't think you could make it anymore.
Yeah, like the producers would be, I mean, you know, the Count Dankula situation. So imagine how the producers would be taken. It was clearly making fun of Hitler, but nowadays, I mean, people just don't have a sense of humor anymore.
Well, I think, wasn't it the dude who actually created those movies, Mel Brooks, the great comedic genius that he is? I think he came out last year or even early this year and it's like, oh yeah, modern comedy is a sham. It's breaking down. Things are too politically correct. Here you've got an individual. He's Jewish, number one. He's exceptionally old. I believe he is ostensibly left-leaning. He's saying, oh, comedy is basically dead. You can't make comedy anymore. I would be surprised if he made a movie today, even with all of his chops that he's got. With all the money, with all the fame, you know, he puts his name on something, it makes 10 million bucks regardless. I would be surprised if they'd even greenlight a movie by him at this point. Unless again, it was some sort of social progressive manifesto of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, movies and TV shows, I mean, everything is so politically correct nowadays that it's not even interesting. I mean, there are older works. I mean, I'm talking about books now that are far more interesting. Like when I was reading The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, or when I was reading The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I mean, you're not going to see anything like that these days, because now if people were to read The Picture of Dorian Gray through a feminist lens, it would be, very misogynist against women. Oh, and it's like, hey, white male privilege.
Yeah. Or you think of Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings were in the story, like, are when some of these female characters either don't even exist or are, bit parts. It's basically a sausage fest, which, like, I think the addition of a little bit of feminine energy was good for Lord of the Rings. and even for The Hobbit with Tariel and some of the, I know I'm in the minority saying that, but that's just my feeling. I don't have a problem with that. But the thing is, you look at even these movies, not that long ago. I think it was it 2000 or 2001 that the first Lord of the Rings, but with Peter Jackson actually came out. I can't remember. But the movie, I wonder if it would come out today in that form, because almost all the characters are white except the orcs, which were a certain other color. And it's been interpreted as a racial thing. Even some people in the alt-right they were using that as a meme, actually, against globalism. They're like, oh, we can't build this wall here. We have to let the orcs in. They're like refugees. Orc posting was the most surreal thing I've ever seen in my life. It was great, and people should bring that back, by the way. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the Lord of the Ring movies. I enjoyed the Hobbits movies. I wasn't triggered, and I didn't need to run into a safe space.
So you weren't offended at the fact that there was a general lack of black characters within a movie that's about like elves and stuff?
I really didn't care all that much, but to the same token, I didn't really care that, Black Panther was predominantly black, For me, I just don't go like, oh my goodness, the race really matters. Like, man, I mean, I gotta pay attention to which color the actors are. For me, I watched, the Black Panther party. I mean, sorry, the Black Panther. Sorry. Same name though, but I watched the Black Panther and I had no problem with it. Had watched the Hobbit, had no problem with it. I don't really know why people would heavily condemn the Black Panther, because there's so many black people there. I don't get it, because I don't really pay attention to race when it comes to movies. Like back in the day, I watched Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and that was like exclusively Chinese, and I didn't really care,
Yeah, I mean, you think of any like Jackie Chan movie, it's like a nonstop stereotype of Asians for the most part.
Yeah,
extremely 90s and 2000s movies talk about stereotyping. It's insane. But the thing is, that's part of what made it funny was the fact that it was a farce. And I might, again, some people on the further right might criticize me for this. If like Lord of the Rings or some movie like that had been billed as, it's like a white movie, and Rotten Tomatoes had come out and said, well, if you leave a negative review, we're going to have problems. We might have to look into your account. I would have instantly disliked it and the branding. My only problem with something like Black Panther was really the way Rotten Tomatoes handled it, and some of the people that were actually advertising the movie. They're like, well, it's important because it is all black. And if you disagree, then you are a racist. The fact that the movie itself was made, though, for me, speaking as someone who's, white and libertarian, more or less, I would say the movie itself is just standard Hollywood material. I'm not necessarily the biggest movie aficionado for anything made after the mid-90s. So maybe I'm not in the best position to actually judge modern Hollywood. I generally shy away from modern movies. And I think one of the more recent movies that I enjoy is like Jurassic Park. And that was how many years ago? I don't know. It was when I was a little kid.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad movie, but it's not like it's not the same as Blazing Saddles, because the more and more politically correct the movie is, the less good it's going to be, if that makes sense.
And Blazing Saddles was specifically made to be irreverent, to get people to think and also to entertain them. I will say this though, and again, I think I'm in the minority on this one too. I didn't like Blazing Saddles as much as Young Frankenstein. Actually, I like History of the World Part 1 more than any other movie he made.
I haven't seen that one.
It's hilarious. You've got to see it. It's got a great deal of religious humor. Makes fun of Rome, makes fun of Hitler, makes fun of everything basically.
It sounds like a fun movie.
Yeah, from the caveman days up through. There's supposed to be part 2, but it was never made. I think that was part of the joke in general. Also, I wanted to ask you a little bit on a different topic, aside from maybe politics. About some of your spiritual beliefs, because I believe that you have just barely gotten into covering a little bit about spirituality, if you wanted to get into it. So sort of generally your beliefs in a basic sense.
I'm an agnostic or an atheist.
So you don't care about the religion issue maybe so much as some do?
Yeah, I'm not very religious. I am non-religious. I mean, I don't mind going to church, like I could go to church and have a good time, talk to the people there, but I'm not very religious. I wouldn't say I'm an atheist, but I am agnostic because I agree with your recent video that I believe you posted it's this morning. That I mean, it's kind of like if you are a hardline, to a Christian, the burden of proof falls upon you. But if you're a hardline atheist, then the burden of proof also falls upon you.
So you don't deny like Jesus Christ or hate religion. Because some people say that if you're not like, hardline theist, then there must be something actually wrong with sort of the statements that you've been making.
I don't hate Jesus. I just don't know if he ever existed or not. I'm unsure he could have existed, and even if he did exist, there's no proof that he was half God and half man.
Yeah.
Even if he did
Somebody,
exist, he would probably just be a regular man.
yeah. Johnny P is asking about Poultrygeist. That brings me to an interesting question back to maybe cinema. Have you heard of like Trauma, or do you watch B movies, like the really shitty kind?
Oh no, I haven't seen those. I have watched a lot of anime though. Anime, that's something I'm more well versed in.
You'd definitely be the expert on that. I would be more on the weird 80s cheesy campy movies. I can't remember what was the name of it. There was a movie called Cabin Fever that was released in I think the early or mid 2000s. Without giving away too much of the plot, it's sort of an epidemic style / kind of zombie-ish movie. But it was like the craziest thing, and there was a great deal of racial humor within that movie fairly early on in it, and right at the end, like the ending was insane. It was like the greatest thing ever. I'm wondering, watching anime, is there a lot of political correctness in that? Actually,
No.
like coming from Japan, or did they not care? I honestly wouldn't know. For the most part.
No. I think that if people watch anime, people from both the left and the right would be really upset. The people on the left would be upset because there are many anime girls with unbelievable size tits, like their boobs are just ridiculously huge. But I don't think, the Christians are going to like the anime Devils and Realist, which Devils and Realist is a bit, I don't know a nice way to put it, but it's a bit gay. you know, and like the
tip to YouTube, we're not saying that's a bad thing. It's just an aside.
yeah, like the devils were like good, and like the angels were a bit on the evil side, and there are some anime like that with good devils and evil angels, or where there's the anime the devil is a part-timer and the devil is like a cool chill dude, and the person who wants to destroy the devil is a psycho nut job.
What wasn't there? Well, yeah, because Japan's not like a largely Christian. It's still like spiritualist and atheistic. Was there I can't remember the name of it, but there was a show I think they released in 2015 or 2016 where Satan was like an anime teenage dude and like came to Earth for some reason to like save people or something. I was wondering, would you know the name of that? I mean, if you watch a lot of anime or something.
I think that's the devil is a part-timer. I think that's it.
Oh, it's the same one you're talking about?
I think so, because he came to Earth and he did do some heroic things, so I think that's the one that you're talking about.
Yeah. People wonder why Japanese culture caught on in the Western world. It's like, well, it can be exciting, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Like even in a religious context.
Because when you ditch political correctness, you can just you're free to go places that nobody else would dare to go, and so you could create really interesting content. Whereas when you are very politically correct, you're so restricted, that there is a limit to what you can do. It's like you can't do this, can't do that, can't do this. And before it was the Christians who were like that, and they just stifled entertainments. But now the left is like that because this is transphobic. This is anti-black. So I mean, think about Three's Company. Three's Company, Jack Tripper, he pretended to be gay, to be with like two women. You're not going to see Three's Company again because it's going to be viewed as sexist nowadays, and it's going to be viewed as heavily, like homophobic now.
I see what I'm wondering. This is something I'll run by you in closing here, and then also for people, just so you know, I will put your BitChute link in the description as well. For those that are not watching live, there will be a third link in the description to your BitChute channel as well, because I want to support them and support your work there as well. I was wondering, in closing here, do you think that maybe 10, 20 years from now, people looking back at the sort of stuff that we have in Hollywood, video games, within politics and stuff, sort of the over-the-top PC stuff, politically correct, this is sexist, that's racist sort of stuff, will people be looking at that, your prediction here maybe, if you will, the same way we look back maybe at the 90s and people perceive it as, oh, well, that was racist and sexist and weird, that in 20 years from now, stuff that's made today will be considered odd?
Yeah, I do think that stuff made today would be, really odd because it's kind of like when everything is too politically correct, nobody would really want to watch it because I remembered when I started watching black and white films or the old stuff, and it's like, what? I've been missing out because it's kind of like when you get rid of political correctness, things are more interesting. It's kind of like, whoa, this is great. Like, I love Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein and Knights of the Demon. And it's like, I cannot believe like a movie like Knights of the Demon was made in like the 1930s, or it's kind of like Bill Book and Candle, like that old movie. Like, that was really interesting. But the more you censor content, the more it's going to be. It's kind of like being an adult and watching Barney. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking at this point probably the British will have to ban most prior British comedies, and some of that really weird dry stuff from the Monty Python period. It's got to be banned by now. It's got to be anti-PC by the standards of the UK's government now.
Yeah, it's kind of like the older stuff is really far more entertaining. Like if you read an old book, like a lot of times people like to think we've progressed and everything gets better with time. But when I look at older books, they are far more entertaining because, I mean, what's in a decent now, or what's censored now wasn't censored by then, so it makes it more interesting because you just can't get it now.
Now, it's been interesting actually to talk to you, but again, for everybody out there, there are 3 links in the description to Rin's YouTube page, Twitter handle, and also I will add a link to BitChute. So it's been a pleasure having you on. If there was anything in closing you wanted to say to people.
No, it's been a pleasure being on. I'm glad we were able to have this discussion.
And now you've got to say, that's about all. Peace out.
That's about all. Peace out.